Here we go for part 2. We're going to talk about cognitive dissonance and Leon Festinger, probably one of the 10 most famous social psychologists, which isn't necessarily saying a lot in other contexts, but this idea of cognitive dissonance is an amazing theory. Top 10 theory in social psychology. Festinger, what does he say? Well, when we have attitudes that mismatch, so let's go to ambivalence, where, we talked about ambivalence in the last part. We have a strong negative, strong positive attitude. How does that become reconciled? Well, what Festinger says is when we hold two inconsistent attitudes, we don't like that. We like stuff to line up. We like to be consistent. So when we experience inconsistency, it's experienced as what he calls dissonance, and it causes us arousal. And it's honest to God physiological arousal. It can make us feel sick to our stomach. This is also guilt, right? So if I have an attitude, stealing is wrong, and many of us hold that attitude, stealing is wrong, and we hold it strongly, but then happen to steal, commit the stealing behavior, then there's a mismatch between attitude and behavior. So dissonance arousing mismatches could be attitude to attitude, attitude to value, or behavior and attitude. Any of those can arouse dissonance. Often it comes to us as a sick feeling in our stomach known as guilt, right? Well, the guilt, or that sick feeling in our stomach, allows us to then to revisit the mismatch and do something about it. Right? So once dissonance is aroused, it's got this huge motivational quality to it, and people attempt to reduce it. So I can change the attitude or behavior. I can say, well, my attitude was a little short-sighted or incomplete or wasn't really well thought out, and we might develop a new attitude. Or we might say, I'm never going to do that again, because that was inconsistent, right? So you think of yourself as a kind person and a good friend, but you say something that really hurts your friend's feelings. And you say, oh my God, I was really an asshole, but I'm not an asshole because I'm a good person. How could I have said this? So you might then go to apologize to this person, promise yourself, and this is a big one. We often promise ourselves that I'll never do that again because I felt so bad in doing it. And that's a typical dissonance response, right? Or we can change our perception of the attitude or behavior. So maybe I think stealing is wrong, right? But I stole something, and I say, well, you know what? Actually, everybody does that. Or cheating. How many of you think that cheating is just wrong? But then, you're looking at your taxes and you cheat on your taxes and say, well, they expect you to cheat on your taxes. Everyone cheats on their taxes at least a little bit, right? So then we're making cheating okay, or we're at least making cheating within the context of taxes okay. Okay? And what do you say when you have the leader of the country that says only stupid people pay taxes? Right? And then a lot of people say, well, I'm going to cheat on my taxes just like everyone else because only stupid people pay taxes. So now taxes don't become a civic duty. That is, we should pay our taxes because it supports our world, right? We're saying only chumps pay taxes. So let the stupid people pay taxes, and us smart people up at the top of the game don't pay taxes because we're smart. Notice, now taxes is not cheating. Cheating on taxes becomes a demonstration of intelligence. And this is how twisted we become. And Festinger is an amazing, has demonstrated all these different ways that we lie to ourselves to reduce the dissonance. Okay, we can diminish the importance of the conflict. It's just not that big a deal. Mark, I don't know why you're thinking about this anymore. Get over it. Get over yourself. Let's move on with life. It's not that big a deal. Okay? So these are all ways that we can reduce dissonance. One thought experiment for you is maybe you've been asked to do something at your work that you didn't believe was right, but you did it anyway. How did you justify it then? Well, God, if I don't do it, I'm going to lose my job. Or God, if I don't, then whatever. So Festinger, what does he say? A man with a conviction is a hard man to change. Tell him you disagree, he turns away. Show him facts or figures, he questions your sources. Right? Appeal to logic, and he fails to see your point. Festinger was a brilliant kind of guy, and cognitive dissonance is one of the most profound theories. So, I'm catless now. Oh well. So, one other point that I want to talk about, and to me this comment or this statement comes to us from Abelson, a psychologist, wrote an excellent book on statistics as well. Statistics is a principled argument. a very fresh approach to statistics, not a numerical but a conceptual approach to why we use statistics. Right? Beliefs is a possession, and the problem is that once people come to believe something, it's as if it's a possession. And if you question or try to challenge or then take away their belief, they defend it as if it was something they possess, like a baby's blanket. So really, when you think about it, if you ever get in an argument or seriously question someone's attitude or belief about something, notice that ultimately they may just in fact resemble a toddler holding onto their blanket and refusing to give it up. Beliefs are components of the self, and they're part of the self-definition quite often. People then defend beliefs as they would themselves. Now, for many of us, we get to the point where we are willing to accept additional information and potentially change our beliefs on the basis of information. So, attitudes are a function of underlying beliefs. We believe something's good or bad, and this becomes part of our attitude. And defense mechanisms that are used to defend the ego can also be used to defend the belief. So if we look at like the 8 Freudian defense mechanisms, they work to defend the self, the ego, right? But they also can be employed to defend beliefs, which are thought to be a component of the self. Motivated reasoning describes selective processing of information that helps to maintain the consistency. So when Kunda and later researchers, when Ziva Kunda coined the term motivated reasoning, what she's saying is many times people come to a situation simply wanting to confirm what they already know. So information that confirms what they already know, they say, oh, good information. Information that conflicts or disconfirms what they already know or they believe, right, then they fight it and they question the source or they question the veracity of the information and don't really aren't necessarily in touch with reality. Not that we would ever see anything like that big time. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about commitment, satisfaction, and involvement. What are we looking at here? Well, organizational commitment, committed to the organization, can increase one's job satisfaction, and my increase in job satisfaction then can lead to greater job involvement. And that is spending more time, as I described. So I've already kind of beat those issues to death, but let's face it, they're related. And one of the big questions as a leader in your organization is, how do you increase organizational commitment and then people get a sense of job satisfaction and job involvement? And this is something we should attend to as leaders, right? We lead in this, we demonstrate the behaviors that support this, we create the situation and the environmental components that support this. So as a leader, you got a full plate. And you got to lead from in front, and you got to demonstrate the behaviors that allow people to experience these positive aspects of their work. So organizational commitment then is the extent to which individual identifies with the organization and its goals. I'm down with the psychology department. I'm down with modern assessment practices. I'm down with all these ideas of making psychology ever more practical and useful for you guys, so that you benefit from it. I'm also down with the idea that your money should be well spent, and when you leave school you're better able to do things that will enhance your role in your community, your role as a parent if you choose that role, your role as a partner if you choose that role, and your role involved with your occupation. Right? So hopefully we're working on that. Strong relationship between organizational commitment and job satisfaction, set it highly correlated with job performance. And that's where it becomes interesting, and this is where bottom line kind of enters into the thinking. If my people are involved, if they're committed and they're satisfied, I should see increases in performance. Employees had lower intentions to quit to their jobs when they were committed to their respective organization. And remember then, attitude towards the organization, if we remember the intentional model, right? Attitude towards the organization, greater positivity, diminishes, right, the attractiveness of quitting, that is leaving the job, right? So, question, can you buy loyalty or commitment? Can you just throw money at this situation? I don't think so. Think about it. I mean, and I'm an individual example, but there's a lot of research to support this. But I made a lot more money at Columbus State than I do at Ohio State, on the order of, let's say, $40,000 a year more. And when I was working at both schools, and I was trying to work, I was full-time tenure faculty at Columbus State and trying to teach part-time at Ohio State. Quite often, Ohio State would call me back and say, hey, can you teach another class? Can you pick up another class? And there was 2 years I ended up teaching full-time at both schools. And I was making mega bank for me. For a teacher, I was making great money. But it was exhausting, and I was learning not to enjoy my job. So I don't think that the money was buying my loyalty commitment to either organization at that point. And notice, why am I working in the lower paying, less secure position? By choice. It's not about the money, right? There's something else. So we have to understand what motivates people necessarily. Ohio State, one thing that I really love dearly is I get to teach this class, which was not on the table at Columbus State. It just wasn't part of the curriculum. So money is not necessarily the panacea that everyone hopes. Well, we'll just pay them a little more. We'll give them a bonus. Not necessarily going to work, right? So job involvement is the extent to which individuals immersed in his or her personal job. And for me, this is a big aspect of organizational commitment, satisfaction is involvement. And variety is an important component to me. So that I get to teach so many different classes really strengthens my involvement and commitment with Ohio State. So, positively associated with job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and intrinsic motivation. And intrinsic motivation is choosing to do it because I want to do it rather than I'm being paid to do it, right? It'd be much easier. Think about this. It would be much easier for me to teach 3 versions of the... Think about how at Columbus State it's pretty easy. Oh, you got to teach Psych 1100. You're going to teach 5 sections. So I would teach maybe 5 sections of Psych 1100, a section of Social Psych, and a section of Lifespan Development at Columbus State. That's pretty easy. 3 different classes is all I'm teaching, right? I don't have to prep each Psych 1100 separately. But notice, here at Ohio State, I have to prep 4 different classes for every semester. The only repeat I have between semesters is Psych of Emotion. So managers can increase, negatively related to intentions to quit. We already discussed that. Managers can, hi Annika, how are you doing, sweetie? Can increase employees' job involvement by providing work in environments that fuel intrinsic motivation. And if you want to understand more about this, we really don't have the time to get to this in depth in this class. I would love to see in psychomotivation, where we explore this in significant detail, right? How does this work to fuel intrinsic motivation? Well, through autonomy, through choice, through relatedness, right, and through a sense of competence. So these are huge components to intrinsic motivation. Improving job involvement can reduce turnover, and there's few things that are more expensive than turnover in an organization. Positive relationship between job involvement and performance. Okay? And that's what we're about. We get back to this idea of performance. So, performance then, what is it? Well, it's the ability. So we have to hire for ability. Think about that. Hire for ability. We talk about that in Personnel Psych next semester. Hope to see you there. I know, this is like one long commercial, right? That's maybe not that bad. But effort, really, effort is the involvement, the commitment component. And the skill is something we can learn. But what is the combo? What is the successful combo? Well, we teach people, we give people the proper training, or hire people with the requisite skills. We hire people with the requisite abilities. You can't teach ability, typically. And effort comes through satisfaction, involvement, etc. So, causes of job satisfaction. Well, there could be need fulfillment, and we've talked about the need fulfillment as a model of I'm sorry, need fulfillment as a model of motivation, in part, one explanation, right? Satisfaction is determined by the extent to which characteristics of a job allow an individual to fulfill his or her needs. I need to call my shots. Autonomy is very important to me. So I'm in the perfect place with the psychology department at OSU. Discrepancies. Satisfaction is a result of met expectations, the extent to which one receives what he expects to get from a job, and the fact that if there is discrepancies, and notice when I was at Columbus State, the discrepancies outweighed the satisfaction. I wasn't getting what I wanted out of the job, so eventually I left that job at a sacrifice of security and money, because I had tenure and I made more money. I gave those away to be here at Ohio State, right? Because of the need fulfillment. So we can see how these work kind of in concert or opposition. And then value attainment. Satisfaction results from the perception of a job that allows fulfillment of an individual's, and I feel that I'm making a contribution. Now, I might be dead wrong about the result of making a contribution, but I feel as if I am. What are some other causes of job satisfaction? Equity. Do you believe that you're being treated fairly? Do you believe that what you put in is equal to what you get out? And we've talked about this, I believe, in just the previous lecture. Right? And this is one place where I'm having trouble with OSU right now, because they're expecting us to work harder, to do more, but they've frozen our wages. And they're not producing bonuses, etc., for extra work. So it feels like when you have to do more for less or more for the same, that you're entering into a state of negative inequity, to borrow from the previous lecture. And then there's just a dispositional genetic component, and we're finding this out more and more the more we study, right? That satisfaction is just partly, some people tend to be more satisfied with their lot in life than others. So, there's a genetic component to optimism, right? It's not a full game, but there's a component to it. So what are some correlates with job satisfaction? And if I wanted to measure job satisfaction, what this table tells me is what should I ask in my questions, right? Well, let's look at the variables that we could kind of query and see what kind of relationship they might have with job satisfaction. And through lots of research, we can get a handle on the strength of that correlation. So is motivation correlated with job satisfaction? Yep, and it's related positively to a moderate degree. Job involvement, positive to a moderate degree. Organizational commitment, positive to a moderate degree. So these three that we've talked about kind of repeatedly. Now, absenteeism. Well, if we see someone becoming absent to a greater and greater degree, or absenteeism is running rampant through our organization, it becomes a problem, well, then we see that people might, one of the causes of absenteeism might be low job satisfaction. That's the negative, but it's only a weak predictor, right? Tardiness is negative and weak. Withdrawal cognitions, that is thinking about leaving, fantasizing about leaving, it's negative but strongly correlated with job satisfaction. So the less satisfied I become, the more I think about leaving. Turnover, moderately associated in a negative way. Let's take a look at a couple more. Heart disease, moderate negative, right? So to the extent that we're experiencing physical infirmities, then we might in fact have a diminished job satisfaction. Perceived stress, the more stressful the job, right? All else being equal, people then their job satisfaction diminishes. Strong relationship. Pro-union voting, negative, moderate, right? And when I was a union member and a union officer, I belonged to several unions and took several positions with the union. You see that the people who are strongest in the union generally have a relatively negative job satisfaction kind of stance. That's a hard one to bust, and it's a hard relationship. Now, the Pat Kerrigan video, what we see is that people and the union and the company become kind of partnered, and we see the relationship change. But I think that's more the exception than the rule. Job performance, the more satisfied, better I perform. Life satisfaction, and that's work-life, family balance, and then mental health. So to the extent that I have job satisfaction, it's moderately associated with my mental health. So that's it for this, and we're going to take a look at 6.1 and developing some scale design to get you ready for, I believe it's homework, 17, I don't remember the number specifically, but it'll be questionnaire design. So let us leave then with a nice display of Dusty Miller and poppies. My mother was a lover of poppies. I have to grow some more. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Take care, and I'll talk to you later.